This presentation is about passwords and hashes. It is intended for the class CGS 5131 at University of Central Florida. My name is Rick Lineker. So let's give a brief description of what a password is so we're all on the same page. A password is a word or string of characters used for user authentication to prove identity or access approval to gain access to a resource. For instance, a password might be "Lifels Cool!" A password is a string which is to be kept secret from those not allowed access. Passwords are not stored as plain text. Plain text passwords could be retrieved and examined. Instead, passwords are stored as hashes. That way, you don't know what the password is if all you see is a hash. For instance, the password "LifelsCool!" could be hashed as the following string of characters. A hash function is any function that can be used to map data of arbitrary size to data of fixed size. The values returned by a hash function are called hash values, sometimes hash codes, or hash sums, or simply hashes. For instance, the LM hashes and NTLM hashes that Windows uses have a length of 32 for passwords of any length. And let me go back to that previous example. Notice that the hash has 32 characters for "LifelsCool!" Storing passwords as hashes means that an observer cannot look at the hash and know the password. If the passwords were stored as plain text, it would be easy to look at the passwords. All you would have to do is scan or search the hard drive and find whatever file or database or repository you're using to store the passwords. Here's an example. If your password was test, T-E-S-T, then you can create two hashes. One an LM hash and the other an NTLM hash. And you'll notice that by default, Windows will create both an LM and an NTLM hash. So for the password test, we would get an LM hash 01FC, etc., etc. And we would create an NTLM hash 0CB694, etc., etc. And here again, these hashes, their lengths will be the same regardless of the length of the password. Hash values are one way and cannot be reversed. That is different than encrypted data. Encrypted data can be reversed as long as the key is known, but hashes cannot. There's no real key that can reverse hash values. They're not encrypted, they're hashed. So here's a word about logging into anything, whether it's a system or a website or some other resource. The question arises, if the user types in a plain text password and the password is stored as a hash, how can a match be made? First, let's make sure that we understand that the original password is stored in a database or other medium as a hash value of the original plain text password. When the user types in their plain text to log in, it is converted to a hash. And here again we have different hashing methods. Windows uses LM hashes and NTLM hashes. The hash, not the plain text, but the hash is then compared with hashes in the database for a match. Please note, though, that the login name is rarely hashed, so it is easy for anybody, be it attacker or administrator or whoever, to know the actual login name. So the login name is not going to be obfuscated in most cases. So here's the process of logging in. A user enters a login name, such as Rick Lineker, and I should make a note that normally the login names are not case sensitive. Then a user might enter a password, LifelsCool exclamation. Now I need to point out that passwords are case sensitive. So the entered password is hashed and now it becomes 4770F86, etc. A match for the username Rick Lineker with password hash 470F8, etc. are searched for in the database. If found, the login was successful. If not found, the login was not successful. So what I'd like for you to do now is go out to this website and try out their hashing demo. You can actually take a password or any plain text and hash it. Okay, so here is a website that will let you test out hashing. And you'll notice it's got a default character set, A through Z lowercase, A through Z uppercase, 0 through 9. So a lot of times people will use special symbols. In fact, some systems require you to use special symbols when you log in. So we're going to go ahead and select all these. They're all legal. And notice it's showing you the character set here that it's going to use. Okay. So let's go ahead and type test. And remember, I had that as one of my examples. Okay, so it shows you the NTLM hash and the LM hash. You can actually have a whole list of this. And it'll do the whole list for you. Okay, so this is actually really a useful tool. So you can actually see what it looks like after you've created hashes from these passwords. Now notice they're all 32 characters long. Okay, and that's what I wanted to point out. Even if I have a blank space, it's going to be 32 characters long.